We've had some interesting comments on our videos and our posts on Facebook and Instagram and things like that in regards to why exactly we're doing this. Isn't it cheaper to go to the store just to get your produce? Okay, slight problem that we're experiencing here. I'm hoping to nip this in the bud immediately. It's another crispy cold one today. The sun's just starting to come up over the hill behind us. Our little bay on Lake Superior is completely frozen, and the goats are screaming their heads off. Goats! Beans! Over in the corner there, Beans. What's going on? You got a lot to say today. Yeah, I know. It is time to check on things in the greenhouse. Judging by my thermometers in the house, it is very cold in there. Chilly one this morning. 0 degrees in here. It's time for a quick update on the winter greenhouse to see what we've managed to sprout out here. So I got out here this morning and I found that one of our power bars died on us throughout the night. I don't know what happened to it, but it's no longer working, which caused the heater to shut off all night. So that's why it was so cold in here this morning. And also, the other morning I came in and I noticed that there were some mice starting to burrow around in the beds here. So I had to get on top of that. I still have not caught a mouse in here, so that's a good thing, I suppose. I'm going to keep the traps out anyways, probably a good idea. It's a greenhouse, it's winter, it's warm in here, cold outside. Obviously, pests are going to be attracted. So we are at 1 week from seeding the beds in here. And this is the romaine lettuce starting to come up. That is the only spot that seeds have germinated so far for the lettuce. We move over here to the radish. The radish is doing much better. Seeds are popping up in each row that we planted here. Something that I'm noticing though, you can see the seeds that were planted on this end of the bed, the end that is inside and not facing the window or not up against the window, have all sprouted first. There are a couple starting to sprout towards the back, but not many at all really. So that is telling me that when I am planting next time, I'm going to want to do my rows this way in the bed and slowly work my way to the back with succession planting as the season warms up. You can see we're looking at about 16 or 17 degrees Celsius at this end of the bed. That is in the sun too. If I move this back here, we'll probably see it drop down a little bit. Yeah, so it's dropping down closer to 10 degrees Celsius, which is fine. We're figuring this stuff out as we go. This is our first year actually trying to grow in the winter in the greenhouse. And then over here, we have the seeds that we have been trying to germinate out here, as well as a tray that I germinated in the house and brought outside just today. In this tray, this is where we planted our celery and our lavender out here in the greenhouse. The lavender sprouting very nicely all through the tray. The celery, not a single sign of growth yet, but celery does take quite a while to germinate. This is 7 days roughly. I'm very impressed with the lavender. I like that this germinated so easily out here. And in this tray, these are seeds that were started inside. So these are broccoli. They got pretty leggy inside because I forgot to drop the light down once these had popped above the soil. I think we're going to be okay. We'll just have to fiddle with these and strengthen them up a little bit. Probably put a little stick in there. When it comes to transplanting time, they'll be fine. They'll have nice big thick stalks on there. This little tray right here, this is all thyme. And this was sprouted inside the house. Growing nicely as well, but I decided to move it out here so I can have some more shelf space in the germinating area inside. And this is the lavender that we started in the house. So you can see not much of a difference between the lavender sprouted out here in the greenhouse and the lavender sprouted inside in our germinating area in there. The lavender that I was germinating outside here in the greenhouse, that sprouted before the stuff inside the house, so that was pretty cool. Both trays out here are sitting on top of heat mats. Little bit of extra warmth over the night. It's really mainly for the nighttime that I have those on. Brought this orange out here a couple days ago for our little butterfly friends because this is becoming a bit of a butterfly conservatory. There's that little guy again. There's another one just like him. And there's another little white, green looking butterfly in here. Hopefully they pop out for a little visit today. Have some orange, buddy. This is for you. It's time to get a few more things planted. And what we're going to plant today are these potatoes. These are the potatoes that we grew in our tower last year. Some of the small, really tiny ones. They've started to sprout. I want some fresh taters, so I am going to plant these into this bucket right here. We have two varieties. This is Kennebec. This is some weird purple variety that we picked up last year from one of our local seed suppliers. So I'm going to plant them in separate pots and we'll see how they do growing them up in this bucket method. These are probably about 20-liter pots, roughly. The soil is just straight out of our hoop house. I just went down and dug a couple buckets worth out so that I could plant this stuff. Lots of organic material in here, lots of compost. There's a lot of clay too, which we'll find out how that does in this little bucket. Start off with these purple ones. Looks like I've got about 5 of them here to plant. I'm just gonna leave that a little bit of this sprout sticking just barely up out of the soil there. Give it a little bit of a head start. Do that with each one. And the reason that I haven't filled this pot up entirely is just so that later on, if I want to, I can build up the soil as these begin to grow. There's that one done. We'll get some water in there in a couple minutes. And in the second pot, we will do this Kennebec variety. Same deal. Last one. You see some little tiny leaves starting on that sprout. That feels good to have those planted. I started some of these last year out in the greenhouse here, probably around now, but maybe it was in February, I can't quite remember, and they were our best producing potatoes last summer as far as the various methods that we used to grow them. This bucket method absolutely outperformed everything else, and we only did 2 small buckets. This year we're doing more, that's for sure. This is just for our early stuff though. We've had some interesting comments on our videos and our posts on Facebook and Instagram and things like that in regards to why exactly we're doing this. Isn't it cheaper to go to the store just to get your produce? And while it may seem cheaper, we're not in this because of money. That's not why we're doing this. It's the self-reliant aspect of learning what it takes to survive. And part of that is growing your own food year-round. For us, we are well over 100 kilometers round trip from our house to the nearest grocery store. So we try to minimize our trips to town as much as we possibly can. It's not an enjoyable thing for us. I mean, some people like to go shopping, we don't. It usually turns into a full day event when we go to town, just so we can get everything out of the way. Now, that said, we try to grow and raise or take part in that as much as possible with our food. This is why every year we expand our garden areas, and we try to also add new produce into our gardens, because we want to get away from the dependency on the corporate food market. It's not nice having someone else control all of your food. All of these things add up in reducing your dependency on a failing food system. We feast on fresh vegetables all summer long. Anything you could imagine that we can pull from the garden, we do, and we eat it every day. Then, when harvest time comes around, we have large amounts of produce to deal with. The vast majority of that we can. Everything from whole tomatoes to tomato sauce to pizza sauce to pickled beans, various types of pickles, all kinds of stuff, squash. The list just goes on and on and on. And there are also a number of vegetables that we freeze, like our peppers, for example, our beans, kale. So we do have a supply of wintertime produce to consume, but none of it's fresh. And that's something that we miss a lot in the wintertime. Outside of the vegetable aspect of things, for a number of years now, we have been raising chickens. And that started off with just a few meat birds a number of years ago. And each year we progressed into raising more and more birds, to the point now that we raise about 100 meat birds per year. Part of why we do that is because half of those meat birds we trade with another family who raises a pig for us. So it's a win-win for both families. We both take part in all of the butchering and everything about taking care of the animal on its last day. And both families end up with a large amount of meat that was grown happily. These are happy animals. They have one bad day. In the last couple years, we've really put a lot of effort into how to cure and preserve meat. So that is anything from smoking hams, smoking bacon, smoking fish, all the way through to canning things like chicken and turkey to reduce the amount of freezer space that we need and to have shelf-stable products throughout the year. And I can tell you now that after a couple years of doing this on our own, the product is far superior to what you purchase in the grocery store. There really is just no comparison. And it's a skill that I think if you're heading down this path in life, you want to homestead, it is something that you should start to figure out. And we've also now moved into goats. Goats are going to be a dual purpose thing for us. We do consume a lot of cheese, and our goats are dual purpose. So they will also be for meat. That is a big part of why we started raising them. Currently, the only meat that we are purchasing is beef. And if we can start to eliminate that out of what we're buying and just get rid of that whole factory farming thing, especially with the animals, that is great to us. That is the path that we're going down. That's where we want to be. The name of our homestead is Wilderstead. And the reason for that is because we incorporate the wilderness into our homestead. We're surrounded by it. We have various opportunities to gather food from the forest. Everything from wild mushrooms to fiddleheads, wild leeks, blueberries, which is one of our favorite trips to make in the summer. We have a beautiful place that we go to pick wild blueberries, and we stock up on an annual supply every year. All kinds of tasty treats come out of the forest. Fishing is another big thing, and learning what to do with those fish, aside from just freezing them for winter storage. And the canned fish recipe that we use turns out exactly like canned salmon that you might buy in the grocery store. But it's guaranteed to be wild fish. We know this because we go out and we catch these fish ourselves, process them, and then we have shelf-stable fish. Really, the only cost that we're going to be looking at is the electrical cost in the greenhouse here, from running the heater for a few hours at night, as well as the lights for a few hours in the morning and a few hours at night. The wood, we harvest everything off of our property. And for the most part, we take dead standing wood. We have not had to cut down a single living tree on the property specifically for firewood yet. Sure, that time will come, but it's a long ways down the road. Now, moving forward, I will have an idea of what the cost is to run this greenhouse in the winter months. It's going to take me some time to compile that information, but it will be included in our greenhouse winter growing video selection here. And speaking of smoking foods, we have had some hams and some bacon under the smoke for about 20 hours now. It's been quite a cold smoke so far. I'm going to pull the bacon, and then it'll be time to finish up the hams at a much higher temperature. Let's go have a peek. Plenty of wood. We're still at quite a cool smoke here. Have a quick peek inside. So this is where we are at, 20 hours in to smoking. The bacon is definitely done, so I'm going to pull that. The hams, they got to be brought up to a slightly higher temperature.